course, making another video. I've had the 450 SS for a while. I have not been able to ride it as much as I'd like to. It's just been either brutally hot as it is today or raining. But in the meantime, I've been getting a lot of seat time in the Go Kart. And as you would have seen in the last clip, this wheel decided to detach itself and not be a part of the fun anymore. I welded it back on and it actually broke off again. So then I welded it back on. And now we have an issue where if I turn the wheel, it essentially hits the brakes. So since I've spent a lot more time working on the Go Kart than actually riding the Go Kart, I've decided I was going to make a little change. And what I actually decided to do is buy a couple of little things to convert this whole situation into just like a little pit bike. Because I think I'm going to just build 2 pit bikes and then just do pit bike races around the yard, since the Go Kart doesn't seem to be reliable enough for my bumpy yard. So that's what I'm going to start this afternoon. It's Sunday, so I'm probably not going to finish all of it today, but I'm looking at the Go Kart and I'm just thinking it's time for a change. Alright, so we got the Go Kart on jack stands. The pieces I will be borrowing, of course, are the motor, possibly the brake, most likely the brake, and of course the gear. I'm just not sure how I am going to implement the wheel for the back of the bike. Haven't quite thought that through yet, but you know, I'm definitely gonna figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm gonna start tearing this off. I need to, of course, get the brakes off. Need to get the throttle cable off. I'm gonna get the seat off just to get it out the way. Actually, I don't think I need to take the seat off. Yeah, just take basically the drivetrain, and once I get the drivetrain off, I can kind of put the Go Kart to the side and focus on how I'm going to use these nice little scrap pieces to build a frame for the Go Kart. I probably will, or for the bike, I probably will have to borrow these back slats that I have the motor mounted on, just for simplicity. But then again, I can probably just drill new holes on another piece of metal and that would be perfectly fine. Time will tell. This is gonna, of course, be total from scratch, so should be interesting. As you see, I've already taken off the motor. I'm working on getting off the brakes. Once I get the brake off, like the caliper, I'll be able to slide off the rear disc brake, and then I'll transfer that over to my little workbench. As always, working on my front porch, and as you can see, motor plate, I already have the sprocket, the chain. I got all the little scraps of metal. I don't think I'll really need much more. We'll kind of see. I do need something for the motor plate to mount onto. Push comes to shove, I'll just weld this thing onto the actual frame itself. But yeah, I'm gonna get the brakes off. Once I got the brakes off, I'll start kind of constructing it up here, lay it out how I want it, and pop out the welder. Right, so my GoPro died after the last clip, so I did get a lot of things done off camera. First, I did take the brakes, the sprocket, and all the spacers and welded everything together. So this is one solid piece now. And this will actually mount in between these 2 little tabs. I've already spaced it perfectly so it fits. Made sure that the chain actually fits in between the tire and the frame, and it does. I have my little jerry-rigged front fork, I guess you could call it, The little wheel will mount on those tabs, and this will actually be the hinge. I don't have much trust in this little door hinge holding it, but it was like $4, so I was like, might as well try that. The original plan was to buy a cheap bike from Goodwill, chop off the front and use that, but that's just going to be plan B now. I got, of course, the front part done. I've got partial of the back done, and the motor will actually mount in here somewhere. I did buy more pieces of metal just so I have enough to kind of frame this thing out. Once I have this, I'm gonna mount the back tire so I can figure out the spacing for the chain, and once I figure out the spacing for the chain, I'll have a good idea on where I have to mount the motor, because that's going to be the next step. Because once I get the motor mounted, I can figure out how I'm going to mount this onto the front, and then after I mount this onto the front, I will be able to figure out the frame around the motor, because the seat's of course going to be right on top of the motor. So I will go ahead and grab the welder and get to putting this together. Right, so I got an extra chain, of course, because it will have to be a little bit longer. Got everything in place back here. I got this propping this up right now because I got the motor on the motor plate, and I have one of these cut out so far. I don't have the best drill bits, so it is what it is, but I will be mounting this onto here, and once these motor mounts are in place, of course the chain will be wrapped on there, and I'll be done with the back part, or at least the back drivetrain part, and then I can focus on welding a beam up. Probably will use this piece of scrap, and then of course it'll mount to here, and we'll have the front wheel on there too.
So as you can see, I did get those motor mounts in place. I did, of course, do a lot more since that last clip. It's been about a week and a half since that last clip. And yeah, I've got most of it together. There's just a few things I still need to do, like I need to bleed the brakes, because they're not the best at the moment. But you can see there's dirt all over this thing already. I took it out, rode around the yard. I had to make a slight adjustment up here because the fill cap for the gas, the original design, this just went straight across and actually blocked me from getting gas in here. I do have this little seat. I just kind of put it in place. It's not the most robust. It actually looks like I lost a screw. That's interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna bleed the brakes, and there's one other thing that I wanted to do. Oh yeah, I wanted to weld this more in place as kind of a footrest. So I want to bleed the brakes and then relocate the brake line so your foot doesn't step on it when you're using this as a little, like, I guess, foot peg. So I'm gonna get that situated, and once I get that situated, I'm gonna actually go take it back out for a little spin.
One thing that's probably pretty obvious between this and then what it was at the beginning is I cut off the front end of my BMX bike and decided to use that as the front wheel, simply because the front wheel that I did have, that whole contraption just didn't work very well. So I decided to just use the front, and it works out because I can use the actual, old levers, as this one is the gas, as you can see, and then this one over here is the brake. And the brake one is kind of funny because I needed a way to of course pull down on this. So I actually took an old pair of pliers that I had, cut it a little bit to make it fit on this bracket. So now when you pull the brake, as you can see, well, it actually moves this, and then once I bleed the brake, you'll be able to just pull the brake and it'll actually hit the disc brake in the back. Eventually I was thinking about maybe figuring out a new front brake, because it does have all the brackets and everything. I just took it off.
because I actually broke the one lever, so I got frustrated and just took off the front brake. But for now, I think just having a back brake is fine. I do need to somehow figure out maybe a fender type situation. I can like make a bracket here and just have like a fender or something, because obviously I just took it for a little spin and it completely dirt just went everywhere. But for now, ooh, that's gonna have to be fixed because that's touching the muffler. But yeah, so I'm going to bleed the brakes. Once I bleed the brakes, I'm gonna actually take it for a little spin. I'll pop on the helmet with the cam and everything, just so you can kind of see. I already do know that you can't lean back on it, just because all the weight's in the back. As soon as you lean back, you'll just flip. I might just have to do like a smaller sprocket, and maybe it'll be a little better. But I'm gonna get to bleeding the brakes. Once the brakes are bled, I'm gonna take it for a little rip. Alright, so currently I have it warming up a little bit, just giving it a little time before I rip it around the yard. I'm just gonna take it a couple of laps around, kind of see how it is. So yeah. Well, I went to start recording, and right as I hit record it died. But come on. Alrighty. Oh. Well, that's not good. Well, that's interesting. Well, that's, you know. Oh, Jesus. Alrighty. Well, that's not good. It's like once I go over half throttle, it doesn't want to work. Well, I'm gonna try to figure that out. So I figured out what was wrong. I turned off the gas. So yeah, if you want to ride your bike, make sure you turn on your gas, not off. It might be very helpful. So as you can see, now I can get moving. You can see that it works pretty good. It's got a little speed to it. I'd say that's a success. I mean, I'm sure something will break eventually, but for the time being, of course it does rip. It does feel kind of weird since the weight is offset, but holy shit. There are a bunch of little like wasps or something flying around my yard. Get the hell out of here. But as you can see, she ripped. Of course, brakes still don't work very well. But as you can see, she rips. So I do have a little bit of a headache today. I just wanted to get this thing running, and since it's going now, I'm gonna call it a day. Just go ahead and lay down in bed, edit this video, and yeah, I turned my little GoPro or Go Kart, stole some parts off of it, and I've made a little bike instead. And I anticipate this will not break as quickly as the Go Kart kept breaking, because you know the Go Kart had the problem with the front tire always falling off. But yeah, here's my little contraption. I'm gonna be ripping it around the yard as much as I can. I probably will end up figuring out something better for the back,
because of course having just a piece of metal holding, like, I mean, if I go quick enough for long enough, I'm sure that's going to start eating through. But for now, it just is what it is. But yeah, this thing's a ripper.